yeah. Welcome to 2026. I've always wanted to do that. Here we go. My friends, listeners, fans, friends, everybody out there. I think I said friends twice. It doesn't matter. Welcome to 2026. More About Storytelling is back, and we are ready to go with a super awesome episode today. So strap in, get your audio adjusted, and let's get ready to talk about story. Once upon a time,
in a galaxy far, far away,
it was a dark and stormy night.
Gather round, my friends. Let me tell you a story. All right. So we have all had ups and downs in our lives. All of us have. Every single human that breathes, that lives, has good times, has bad times. Some of us have learned to use the skill of writing to deal with those ups and downs, to celebrate the good and to, I guess, understand would be the best way to put it, the bad. Some people journal, some people write, maybe a diary. Some people will write their anger, their fury out on a page and burn it. I believe that the act of putting something inside yourself out into the world by creating the words on a page, whether you give them to other people to read or not, is a way of healing. It's a way of addressing, accepting those things, those feelings, what happened to you, and then letting it go. It takes those things that are within you that are difficult for you to quantify and understand, and it lets them go. I myself, I wrote the memoir story, The Road to Bone Hill, which, it started out as a journal for my adventure into the world of mead making, mead being honey wine. Of course, I was trapped in a small 2-bedroom apartment during COVID-19, and I had a 5-gallon bucket of my parents' honey. And with my natural curiosity and creativity and the cabin fever all mixed in together, the resulting concoction was, I'm going to teach myself how to make mankind's oldest fermented beverage. And my mead making journey was born, much to the chagrin of my roommate and much to the enjoyment of many of my friends. So when it came time for me to write the story of Road to Bone Hill, it was, in part because I wanted to share my passion for the journey, what I'd learned, the history of the beverage, all this kind of stuff. But also it was a cathartic experience for me because I was dealing with what I call my 4-death period of my life. And I call it that because in a very short span of time, I suffered 4 severe losses to myself, to my life. My biological father, my biological father's father, my grandfather, who I admired and was the reason I signed up for the military. My best friend from school, who was responsible, along with his older brother, for getting me into artwork. And the 4th death was the death of the dream that I had of owning my own winery, meadery, with my parents, which is the reason why I left Vancouver Island and came up to Kamloops. So Road to Bone Hill was a story, in part instruction manual for how to make mead, an introduction into the world of it, what you could do, some of my favorite recipes, how to do it yourself, but also it was a memoir of my journey and the healing and the realization that some hobbies are just never meant to become a career. Now, of all of the books I've published in the last few years, believe it or not, Road to Bone Hill is probably my least favorite. It's like not my personal least favorite, but the least favorite in terms of sales, in terms of like popularity. Very few people know about it. Very few people have read it, but the few that have told me it was pretty profound and it had quite an effect on them. But I'll be honest, I've never really been much for a memoir writer. That pathway for me was usually along the journaling aspect, where I would write what needed to be written and then throw it away. But last year, this in 2025, because I get to say that now that it's 2026, last year, I went to Enderby Literature Convention for my second time, and I met Matthew Heneghan there. Now, Matthew Heneghan was one of the announced authors in the first year I went to LitCon, but unfortunately he didn't get to go. But of all of the profiles I read for people that were going to be coming there, he was probably at the top of the list for people I couldn't wait to meet. Ex-military, paramedic, writing stories about trauma and healing and PTSD. I mean, let's be honest, that is in my wheelhouse. I'm an advocate for mental health. I've suffered it most of my life. My closest friends and family know that The Legend of the Sunlight Prince was a fantasy story, but it was written as a blueprint for how I survived depression that was meant to be given to my daughter. On and on and on and on. Mental health is a very, very severe, serious thing in my world that's had a significant impact on me all my life. So to meet somebody like Matthew and to hear his story was awesome. And I was so excited to meet him, which I finally got to do last year. And I got to pick up a copy of his book, A Medic's Mind, which I've been reading, and it is great. So who better to start off my 2026 year as a guest than by welcoming fellow veteran and turned author Matthew Heneghan to kick off a series of veteran turned author interviews that I'm going to be doing. So without further ado, I give you Matt Heneghan. All right, Matthew, how is it going? Welcome to the show, my friend. It's a pleasure to have you here. Can you just tell me a little bit about your experience, Matt? Like, what is your story before the storytelling began?
Well, hey, thanks for having me. First off, the privilege is all mine. Pretty excited to have a good chat with you, and yeah, thanks for the opportunity. My story. So I guess my story is somewhat, atypical when it comes to writing, but then again, maybe not. I started as a medic in the Army, and I served in that capacity for about 6.5 years. And obviously, it was kind of during wartime there, so the tempo was very busy. And unfortunately, there was the loss of friends that did deploy over to Afghanistan, and subsequently in the years afterwards, losing them here at home as well. When I left the military, I became a civilian paramedic and began working in the city of Edmonton, and did that from 2008 until late 2014. And then I moved out to Toronto and worked out in the greater Toronto area as a paramedic until 2017, when I received a diagnosis of PTSD. And that is kind of where I started writing, never really as a kind of a belief that it would go anywhere. It was just sort of a way for me to get thoughts out late at night. And that was sort of the infancy of my writing journey.
Wow, man, that is insane. Like, what a story, and like when I got a shout out to Lindsay, Lindsay Wagensveld and Ocean. God, I don't even want to Ocean push. Anyway, the woven words sisterhood that created Enderby LitCon. I got to give them a huge shout out for bringing you into my orbit. Because it was the first Enderby LitCon where I saw your profile pop up as one of the featured authors that were going to be coming. And I'd never heard of you before, but I looked into you and it was just immediately kindred spirits, man. Like having served in the Navy myself, not to the capacity that you did, of course, not deployed or in the Army. The Navy is a totally different kettle of fish, so to speak. But I was also a medical first responder as well as part of our damage control section. So I've seen some of the things that you've seen, like just scratching the surface in terms of, people hurting themselves and getting wounded at sea, and the mental health that comes with serving your country, serving something greater than yourself. So, like it's just such an honor that we cross paths, man. And I've been reading your book. I've been reading A Medic's Mind. Fantastic, like very brave, very raw tale, Matt. Like, how
Thank
hard
you.
was it for you to write that?
So when I first started writing it, it was never really conceptualized as a book. So it was honestly, man, it was brutal. And at the time when I first started writing, I was really, really drunk, angry, undiagnosed with mental stuff at the beginning part of my writing. The diagnosis of PTSD came, and I was still somewhat kind of in denial of it, thinking, oh, I think they just made a wrong diagnosis just because I'm in a bad place right now. Whatever little fables I wanted to tell myself, and so I was just kind of jotting things down. One thing that many people don't know about the book is that 3/4 of it was written when I was absolutely hammered. It was sort of the only way that I could get through some of the stories in there, and I've actually never read the finished copy of A Medic's Mind. Never gone back to do it.
Wow.
I obviously had to approve certain things when my publisher would send me stuff, but we had an agreement where she would just send me whatever she needed approved. She would just send me that piece as opposed to sending me the totality of everything. And so writing it was absolutely brutal. And I guess it checks out. Mark Twain, I think it's Mark Twain. He has a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's one of my favorites. And it kind of goes something like, writing a book is a laborious affair that one would never undertake if they weren't driven on by some demon.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's
right. And I feel like that's true with writers, not just writers of nonfiction, but writers in general.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
something in there that pushes you to write. So yeah, it was brutal to write. There was an element of relief when it was done, and an element of like a pang, if you will, of happiness that I got the stories of the guys that I served with and the guys that I really loved out into the world. So there was a sense of sort of completeness there. So yeah, but it was a tough slog.
Oh, that's wild, man. And again, like I said, just so brave, so brave that you do go through that you put that out into the world because, for me, and there was a guy I used to work with here in Kamloops that was ex-infantry. He was PPCLI and deployed and did all sorts of stuff. And he was a gunsmith that I worked with in town when I was doing archery stuff. And we got to talking, as all veterans do, because it's an immediate bond when you've served in any public capacity. Cops, paramedics, firefighters, military, we're all the same. And there's an immediate bond that happens when you meet one another, and you get to talking about your experiences. And we found that our experiences were so different. Like, I mean, I knew guys that came from the Army to the Navy, and the way that they would talk about the elements were so insane. But I'd never realized that it went beyond just the elements, that each of us has a very individual experience with their service. Hey.
Yeah, that's truer words have never been spoken. I mean, even just coming across people that do the same profession as you within in the military, like they're part of the same military occupation, but say for Eastern Brigade as opposed to Western Brigade or something, their experience, even if they're the same element as you, land or air or Navy, is vastly different. But like you said, the camaraderie, the instant connection with people is there, because there is sort of a, and I don't mean to sound as negative here as it might come across, but there is a shared misery aspect
Yeah.
of
Oh
life and
yeah.
service, right? Embrace the suck, as they say in some circles. But it's yeah, I mean, it's a unique way of life, and I think there's a bond that when you have, when you pass your tests, you go through basic, you go through your MOC and all that stuff, and you come out the other side and you're serving. I think there's this understanding that, yeah, hey, you've been through some stuff and you've chosen to stick it out and you've chosen to serve Canada, and like there's something to be said for that, and I think there's just I don't know, there's a connection there that makes bonding pretty easy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you hit the nail right on the head when you mentioned the embrace the suck, like the commiseration.
Mm.
When with the Navy too, the part of it that really sticks us all together is the deployability, like the
Mm.
always being away from home. I mean, you bond with your brothers because that's really all you have, and you get to see some amazing places and travel around the world more so than the other elements do. And in some ways you come home to a jealous family or an angry family. But there was this one point in my life where, and I like this story a lot when I'm talking to civilians, trying to explain what the life was like. But we were getting ready to go on a deployment to, I believe it was Thailand, during one of the tsunamis that wiped it out way back when. And we were getting ready to go on a relief deployment and all this. And they got all of us together in the Military Family Resource Center and all our families and everything. And they started talking all this stuff. And they gave this presentation by a psychologist. And she explained what happens psychologically to a deployed family when somebody goes away. That the person who stays home gets used to a routine without the person who's deployed being there. So all those idiosyncrasies that you put up with from a significant other, like leaving your boots where they don't belong, or the toilet seat up, or maybe a dish in the sink, the partner left at home gets to evolve and move on without you doing all that stuff. And she may, or he may, or they may decide to paint a room or change something outside the house. But for the deployed person that leaves, the day you leave home, there's a snapshot, a perfect image of house and home that exists for you. And you hold on to that the whole time you're gone while you're deployed, because that's one of the ways that you quote unquote embrace the suck, right? Like
Hmm.
you focus on what was left behind, and then you get home and all of a sudden you're an alien in your own environment, and the other person has to get used to those idiosyncrasies they learn to live without, and it causes so much strife, which is why so many relationships in the Navy fail, right? Not to mention all the other stuff like tide boxes and infidelity and all the jokes that are there for a
Oh
reason.
yeah.
But it's such a wild story, and like to experience that from your angle, like the things that you dealt with, that you experienced and went through. Like Medic's Mind is such, I think in the last 2 years, I've only read two books that I would literally say are important works of Canadian literacy. One of them was, it was called Spinning on a Bar Stool by an author in Chilliwack named Glenda Toes, who was, she was a bartender at Corky's Pub in Chilliwack, and was like taken for a ride by a con man and all this kind of stuff. And her story that she wrote was brave and important, that in terms of cautionary tale and insightfulness into human behavior. And I think your
Mm.
book, Medic's Mind, like I'm about halfway through it, but I would put it right up there with one of the most important books I've read this year, I'd say.
It is, Bob, thank you for that. As I don't really even know what to say. That's a high praise, and coming from you, it means a lot. I respect your opinions, and we don't know each other. People that are listening to this, we don't know each other well. We connected kind of back in the I think it was the late summer, early fall.
Yeah, about
Um,
midsummer. Yeah, I think.
yeah. but I feel like you're a buddy already. You know what I mean? Like there's the military angle, so there's the instant connection there. But just you have a very sincere disposition about you, and very easy to gravitate toward. And so, what you just said to me is really impactful, and I thank you for that.
Well, man, that just made my day, man. And like that's what I want this podcast to be about. You know what I mean? Like I just before we got onto this call, probably like before I had to rush upstairs and help my parents who were suffering a bit of a diabetic crisis. I was working on the prequel episode for this podcast, and what I said was in my journey as an author, and again, like you and I have had a couple conversations about mental health and those kind of things. But in my journey as a creative, I've sort of spent my entire life either pushing it down myself or being told to push it down by others in my life. Like to quote somebody from my childhood, I believe it was my grandmother on my mother's side, but writing pictures and drawing, or sorry, writing stories and drawing pictures will never put food on the table. You got to get your head out of the clouds, get a real job. Those things were what I heard my whole life, right? And here I am now, for almost 45 years of age, and I'm starting to realize that a story is literally everything humanity is. It's all around us constantly, every day, all day. And I want to share that. And I want to share the people I've met like yourself, especially those of you that have such incredible things to offer, and like mental health, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, especially this day and age where you're so squashed and you're so beat down by social media news, by everybody's attitude, by the economy, by cost of living, by everything, that mental health now is more important than ever. And when you got people like you who are, forgive the pun, literally on the front lines of that war, man, I will sing your praise till the peak of every mountain erodes to dust, like,
Uh, oh, buddy, thank you.
and
I
that's the storyteller in me right there.
Yeah, it lives strong.
Yeah, indeed.
And I'm glad it does, because yeah, hearing words like that when you're young, especially from people that you love or care about, or that that are supposed to love and nurture and care about you, they carry weight, man. They hurt sometimes. And in my view, in my opinion, words are arguably the most important currency we have. It's just not everyone has the skill to share them. And when you have an ability to take the world around you and transform it, be it into fiction or be it into relatable nonfiction or into some sort of creative endeavor, that is a skill set, honestly, that should be nurtured and should be celebrated. Putting food on the table, I understand that's a generational thing. I heard it quite a bit too when I was growing up, because I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My mom was quite sick growing up, and I didn't have a father in the picture. He was gone when I was about 8 years old or so. So when you say that, I relate to that quite a bit, because I've heard the same things, and it really can, years down the road, hit you in the that mental health sweet spot, and really give you some negative impact later down the road. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of find a road around that and find a way to nurture that gift that you have.
Yeah, it's there's a thing that I said to my kids often too when they talk about why I talk to them the way that I talk to them. And try not to yell at them. I try to support every decision they make. But the saying that I use all the time is, a knife will cut your body, but an insult will cut your potential.
Oof. Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah.
Yeah, deep, right?
Yeah, it's profound, it's so true though, right? I don't think people understand. Like, it's easy to dismiss the, sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt. Like, it's easy to dismiss that with such a cute little saying like that. But when you phrase it the way you did, it really kind of lends the profundity to it, because I mean, they are really impactful, right? Those sayings and insults and things, like, they really do carry weight and they really do carry impact.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. For sure. You know, and it's funny because when I the first time in my life where I decided, you know what, it's time to actually write a book. It's time to share my story with the world. I was at sea with HMCS Ottawa, working
Mm.
in the laundry department, what supply techs are known to do. And most boring job ever, just watching the machine spin. But I had a laptop at the time, and I was on a satellite phone, with like the 6-second delay, trying to talk to my 10-year-old daughter because it was coming up on her birthday. Ships were always deployed in September. So, I went to 3 of my daughter's birthdays, and she was
Mhm.
19 by the time I left the Navy.
Wow.
Um, yeah, man. So I was out in the middle of the ocean. I'm trying to talk to a 10-year-old girl on a satellite phone with a delay, and she just doesn't understand it. So I just listened, right? And I managed to ask her what she wanted for her birthday. And she didn't really hear the question, so she started talking. And then I realized she was telling me about her day and stuff. So I just listened, and she says, "Oh, I'm watching this movie. I think you'd really like it. It's what's it called, Mom? What? Oh, it's called The Never Ending Story." And I'm just like, "Oh man, if my daughter likes The Never Ending Story, she's finally old enough for me to write for her, right?" So for the next 4 weeks while I was deployed, I sat on my laptop in laundry and I wrote a children's novella, like just a 12 chapter children's fantasy book about dark wizards and talking wolves. But in it, I wrote down the blueprint for how I'd survive depression, and that
Wow.
book became the basis for everything I learned to do with fiction. Like, because the stories that mattered the most to me growing up were the ones that taught a moral lesson through
Mm.
fiction. you know so only once in my life have I ever attempted to do what you did, and I'll never push that book. It's there and people can go find it. It's called The Road to Bone Hill. It's about me learning to make honey wine during COVID-19, but it's also about dreams, and it's about death, and it's about overcoming yourself and other stuff, but it's all written through the lens of going on an adventure to learn a new skill during the pandemic. So I've only ever done what you've done once. I really struggle with memoir, mostly because, like you said earlier, I'm genuine and honest, and I
Mm.
want to be genuine and honest about the people who helped me and the people who hurt me. So I tend to be a little bit afraid to write memoir. I might
Yeah,
get
it
shanked
was.
in my parking lot.
Yeah, there's whole sections of a medic's mind that were taken out and stripped and omitted, because it's kind of hinted about in the book that I was in a previous relationship and that it just wasn't good. Um, in fact, this is one of the biggest criticisms I've received from the book when I submitted it to different award circles, was that they wanted to know more about that relationship. Why was it so toxic? Why was it so bad? Et cetera, et cetera. And the thing is, I couldn't really write it without putting any identifying features or markers or anything. And this person is so toxic that it really could have blown back negatively on me. There could have been just a lot of things as far as legality, or even if they just wanted to make life difficult, they could have. And so for me, I started realizing that even though this person did play a role in my life, they played less of a role than I may have originally thought that they did, and that I was still able to tell the story that I wanted to tell without highlighting just how terrible this individual had been to me, and the things that they had done, and the infidelities and things like that. And I think that was the only saving grace for me as far as getting through. Because, like I said, the first 3 quarters of the book were written when I was hammered, so I was not very flattering in the
I
language
just
I used with this
I
person.
love that. I love that. I like now when after this is done, when I go sit down to do my reading before bed, I'm going to be looking through your words with that lens now, and I'm just going to be laughing, man.
Yeah,
Oh man.
the mention of her is very sparse in the book.
Yeah. So Matt, you
uh, y- Medic's Mind isn't your only work, right? Like that's just the first one that you got out.
Yeah. So I guess this would be a good cautionary tale to aspiring writers. But I wrote The Medic's Mind, and then I had some more stories that I wanted to put out into the world, and I wrote some stuff down, and then I was looking for a publisher, and then I came across this on Submittable, which is a website you can submit individual pieces or books if there's people looking, and there was
Hmm.
this press that was looking for books. And so I submitted my work, and they said they wanted it, and they sent me a contract, and everything looked really, really legit. And then I got the final work, and the quality of the book was like super, super cheap, and it was from out of
Oh
country.
man,
And
I see where this is going.
yeah, it was so, but yeah, and like I didn't have to pay like an exorbitant amount of money to get this done, but it was still money out of my pocket to make it happen. And I really didn't know any better. And then I really wasn't happy with a lot of the stuff that was in there. The editing wasn't really great. There was still spelling mistakes that I had missed when handing in my manuscript, and it was never really rectified. And so I didn't like that, because to me it doesn't come across as professional. So I asked them to make some amendments, which they never did. And then I went through the process of trying to get the book removed, because they were selling it for like stupidly high pricing. Like they had it on the Indigo system, but it was selling for like $53.
Oh man,
And yeah, and I was like, that's just such a bad look for me.
yeah,
And so I actually ended up uh, emailing Indigo actually this year, because I'm still kind of dealing with it. But I emailed Indigo with all the email thread where I have requested that they completely remove this from their system, and that they completely remove my work off of their website, and I want nothing more to do with them. And so Indigo was kind enough to kind of get rid of it from their back end as well. But so I did write A Medic's Mind, and then I wrote a sequel, kind of a sequel to it, just a follow on to A Medic's Mind. And then in 2024, I published Woven in War, which is a story, a true story. I'm very, very proud of it. And I worked with my old publisher, as an independent publishing house out here in Canada called Winter Tickle Press.
that's a cool
And so,
name.
yeah, I believe she told me once it has something to do with Newfoundland. I think there was like it was either a pond out there called Winter Tickle, or there's like some vernacular that they use to explain small streams, and that's how the name came about. So
Wild, wild.
yeah, Newfoundlanders, man, they're a special breed. They're a wonderful people.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
you came across a few in the military.
Yo, man, for sure, especially in the
Yeah,
Navy, right? Like the
yeah, yeah,
the Halifax and the fishing culture. But yeah, yeah,
yeah,
some of the best
wonderful
people
people.
I've met from the East Coast. Yeah,
Oh man, the East Coast is a special place in Canada. It really is.
yeah.
Pretty
I've yet
magical
to
out there.
go. I've yet to go, and it's sad. Like one of my biggest dreams is rent a Winnebago or something and start in Victoria and just like right from Victoria to Halifax and stop in every major city for a book signing. Just write the whole thing off as marketing,
What a
you know?
cool thing. Oh man, how
Wouldn't that be
cool that
awesome?
would
Eh?
be.
Just get a bunch of authors together, share the price, and just go, you know?
Hell yeah, man. That's such a cool idea. Honestly, just for the stories that you all would come back with, as well as the camaraderie of being authors, just trying to get your stuff out there and do signings, and oh, how cool that would be.
Yeah, man. You heard it here first, everybody. They're the planning for the more about storytelling road trip, right?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be wicked, man. I'd tune into that.
That'd be so much fun. You got another book coming in the pipeline too, right? Trauma and Tea. Did you want to talk about that, or is it too early? Or
No, sure, I can talk. I'm so stoked with this one. It's a hardcover book. It's the first time I've ever done a hardcover dust jacket book. And the only reason this book came to true fruition is because of you, sir. I had no idea how to format a book to save my life, not even close. Like I did a bunch of stuff in Microsoft Word after watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and I'm pretty sure that I ended up just like jumbling my words into a word search. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. And you told me about a little thing called Atticus. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to download this
I
thing.
forgot about that.
Dude, I almost phoned you to propose to you. That's how amazing this was.
Easy, Tiger.
Like, oh, buddy. I was like, are you kidding me? It's such a cool program, and there's still so much to learn, but it is very user friendly. And so I had all this idea for a story that I've wanted to do for a long time, and it was just kind of a collection of stories, a collection of essays that sort of about some things I've learned along the way, about some things, lessons I've picked up from therapy, and things I've picked up from living with my beautiful fiance Sheena and her two girls. One is 14, the other is 10, and they unwittingly provide you a lot of life lessons if you're
Yeah, they
open to
do.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so I wrote some stories, and I really wanted to lean into the funner side of my childhood, because The Medic's Mind kind of goes into the more it's a very dark book in many respects, and I really wanted to lean into some of the more happier moments and some of the more gratitude-filled moments of my life, and so I ended up writing the first kind of quarter of the book is basically a love letter to the 90s, growing up in the 90s, basically, and
Oh, right on, dude.
oh yeah, just the shenanigans we got up to, and just the coloring of the 90s, just the street signs, everything. And I did this whole thing by myself. I went through the painstaking process of learning how to create a cover and upload it to, I used Ingram Spark to get the book out into the world. And then went through and learned how to upload the inner file, the inner guts of a book. And so this is my first true self-published works, which is, I'm pretty stoked that I hope it is received well. And so far, I've had a couple of people email me. They read the very, very first original draft of it, but they've given me a lot of praise. So I'm very excited about it.
Well, that's awesome, man. And you can count on me being one of the first people in line to pick that up when it comes out. I've seen some preliminary images and stuff, man. And I got to tell you, I'm stoked for it. Like, gonna go on my wall and right up there with all my signed by the authors I know shelf, like.
Oh man, thank you.
Right on. All right. Well, just looking at the interest of time here, there, Matthew, and not that I could talk to you forever. So we're definitely going to have to do some more episodes together in the future. But at the end of my episodes, I like to do this thing that I call one more question. And it's just, like something off the wall, something fun, just a little way to end our interview together that's sort of personal to you and funny. So you ready for your one more question?
I am as ready as I can be, sir.
All right. The military is known for its acronyms. They love acronyms. If you had to use a military acronym to describe your writing process, which one would you use?
Oh boy.
I knew you'd like that one.
Oh man.
And don't
I'm gonna
worry about just, go nuts, man. Don't worry about censorship.
I'm gonna say VAG. VAG.
Nice.
Verbose and gallows.
Verbose and gallows. That's good. That's cleaner than I was expecting it to be. When I was looking at the question earlier, I was thinking, how would I answer that? And I was like, I'm foobar, 100%, man. I'm foobar, like, effed up beyond all recognition. It just like throw shit into a blender and it comes out as a book. Right on, Matthew. Man. Well, man, I got to tell you again, a huge honor having you on the show, man. I'm so glad we got time to do this. And, like I'll look forward to getting you on again. And I know a couple other veterans turned authors, and it'd be really fun to do an episode one day where it's just like a round table with all of us,
It'd be amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. The veteran community is a pretty special community as well. Speaking of like Eastern Canada being special, but the vet community is pretty special too.
Yeah, we got each other's backs and we understand how it all goes, and the alienation and all the other issues too. So
definitely.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, keep doing what you're doing, brother, and we'll look forward to seeing some trauma and tea. Last, before we let you go, do you want to tell the listeners how to find more about you and follow your work?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they'd like to follow along, I would love that. It's author M. Heneghan. M is in Mike or Matthew, depending on the phonetic alphabet. But author mheneghan.com. You can follow me there, and I have links to all my socials on that website.
Yeah, when this episode goes live, we'll have all those links and stuff too. But yeah, Matthew Heneghan, man, thanks for coming out and appreciate you being on the show, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. And that was Matthew Heneghan. So, fun fact for listeners out there, shortly after this interview with Matthew was recorded, which took place at the beginning of the show, which is why you can tell there was some audio issues. I was still learning how to position myself and breathe or not breathe into the microphone. Still struggling with a bit of a cold by the clearing of my throat all the time. But anyways, shortly after this interview aired, a parcel showed up for me in the mail, and Matthew was so kind to send me a copy of Trauma NT. So it is on my TBR pile. I can't wait to get into it. But also, and this is a shout out for Matt and all of my military listeners and veteran friends that would be listening. When I opened the box, the packaging all fell out. Something hard hit the floor, and I thought, well, there's no way that's paper. So I went down, and Matthew slipped a Legion Challenge coin into the box along with Trauma NT. And I just want to say that in my entire military experience throughout my entire life, I have never been gifted a coin. So thank you for that, Matthew Heneghan. I will cherish it for all time. And thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you all next week for more about storytelling.
Fade to black. The end.